Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Do you have absolute certainty on how you go from hello to yes on what you're looking for?
Sean is a master. He teaches. It's not just about sharing the formula with you. It's about making sure that we learn.
I went from $100,000 in debt from law school to having no money and starting my own law firm on my credit card to selling it 4 years later.
Sean and I, we co-created massive victories in 2 unwinnable jury trials, which are recognized nationally now as top 100 jury verdicts.
To be even on the same track with you, who I respect and admire and love with all my heart.
Never again submit. You're not better and you're not less than any human on earth.
When you shared with us about the Unblinded process and the mastery sales training, I just went, wow.
Sean will gain proximity to the most influential and powerful people. He will find out how he can grow their business, how he can help them personally. But the third thing that he does is the most important. Sean serves without an expectation of getting anything in return.
You have very, very high-performing colleagues.
22 years ago, you transformed my life as you did all these people's lives over the course of time. And I couldn't be more grateful. Let's hear from Tony Robbins.
I don't see him as a lawyer, and I don't see him as a blind person. Someone who has subjugated his ego, who has taught me what serving really looks like.
You have this incredible ability to just have unconditional love for everyone, and that is just an incredible gift.
The moment you have been waiting for.
The American Blind Association is the first new face and voice of that association since Helen Keller.
Formula for formulas, which is exactly what I've learned from Sean. It's a language-based predictable model. We will have over 300 new sales meetings this month.
This superpower in the world that is attainable for you is the ability to influence people. If you believe that, say yes. If you believe that, say yes.
Do you think that worked?
Moments in transit, heading to an airport, amazingness happening today. So forgive my camera dynamics at the moment and potentially throughout. So grateful that you're here. Appreciate each and every one of you immensely for being here. More than 3,000 people have been on the Real Raw since its inception, and we are standing in a truly amazing and beautiful space, unpacking the superpower of influence, but more on that later, of why it's a magical time to be on the Real Raw. Gina Ricci, happy Mastery Monday. Who are these extraordinary humans that are here with us today? Please take us in, Gina.
Well, our first extraordinary human is a magic man coming from Orlando. He served our country, Sean and Bella, from 1978 to 83. Thank you for your service, Mr. Robert Bailey Branson, 28-year attorney, Sean, in the space of bankruptcy, teaching law firms all over Florida. Welcome, welcome. We're so glad you're here.
Robert, welcome to the party, and thank you so much for being here today. And thank you.
Hey, it's a pleasure.
Allows us to do fun things like this in our freedom. So thank you.
No, and actually, it's been 32 years, but I liked your number better, Gina.
Sorry.
Awesome, Robert. So, Robert, what's your fun fact, man?
Well, basically what we do is we help people modify their mortgages. And lately, since that seemed to work so well and we got to go around the country teaching it, we've been trying to do the same thing with student loan management. They don't like us using the word modification. The federal government doesn't think that's funny.
Yeah, I hear that. I'm feeling it. Appreciate you. And what's your vision, mission in the world, Robert? Like, what are you up to creating?
Well, primarily, we do consumer bankruptcy and we help out people. I really think that we need to educate our population a little bit better about finances. I've also taught at CARE, which is where you explain to high school kids they don't need those rooms that badly and take care of your credit, because you one step at a time. I don't care how many times you get knocked down, just get back up and flip them off and keep going. And that's the key to happiness right there.
That's it, brother. Love the freedom, love the concept, abundance, and really thank you, Robert, for being here today.
You bet.
All right, Gina, we got a participant to roll with Robert. Who is it?
We have like the bankruptcy corner today. Mr. Todd Duffy coming out of New York, Northern District of New York Bankruptcy Court, leader in all kinds of bankruptcy committees in New York and across the U.S. Court of Appeals, like so much more. Welcome, Todd Duffy, to The Real Raw.
We got Todd in the house. Todd, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks very much. I'm glad to be here.
So is this like a North versus South bankruptcy battle, like in the house, a throwdown?
So here's the story on that. I don't think that it would be as much fun as it sounds. I clerked in the Northern District, but I practice in the Southern District. So I'm sorry, I'm sort of throwing a damper on the battle royale.
I got. And what's your fun fact, Todd?
What we really like to do is we really would prefer, we've done some consumer work, but we really don't do very much of it. What we do is business work. So mostly commercial bankruptcy work. And lately with the pandemic and a lot of other things in the economy, the smaller businesses, the mom and pop shops, I guess the better way to put it is the small business bankruptcies are really what's needed out there. And you're not seeing very much of them. Much of the bankruptcies are falling off. The filings haven't been this low since the 1980s. But these are the people that really need the help. And so this is what we're hoping to do.
Awesome. Appreciate that, Todd. Todd and Robert, may I share a fun fact of my own with both of you?
Yes, please.
Number one, as of 2016, when the year started, I had absolutely no idea of anything to do with bankruptcy law. I had the unique privilege of having our second top 100 national jury verdict between 2014 and 16, both in business cases. And in the second one, Todd, they filed for commercial bankruptcy for a company doing $100 million in revenue to attempt to avoid our $27 million jury verdict, which is currently the largest in the last decade in the state of Arizona. We had bankruptcy counsel. We were up against the guy that wrote the book on bankruptcy in Arizona, and things were not going very well. And it was looking like they were going to have all sorts of different fun ways of having their way with us in bankruptcy court. And in 2 weeks, we decided that we were going to study, learn bankruptcy, take over first chairing the bankruptcy case, and we're able in the Extraordinary Bankruptcy Court of Arizona to turn the whole thing around and ended up settling the case and preserving the entire jury verdict plus. So it was a remarkable learning process. I do not envy the two of you. That is one complex universe that both of you step into and do extraordinary work. So thank you for the work that you do in the world, protecting people, and for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Todd, you're spot
Thank
on.
you.
Sub fives are the only thing that have been keeping us going this last year.
Yeah, I know that's right.
Well, welcome to the party. So we got Robert, we got Todd, and we got some judges today, G Money. What's up?
We have, again, from New York, the Village Justice from the village of Great Neck, New York, is with us today. Elder law, former Bronx attorney, worked 6 years from stealing gum to murder. Welcome, David Kirch, to The Real Raw.
Wait, David, thank you for being here. Did we hear chewing gum to murder?
Well, you know, as a DA in the Bronx, you get a wide range over 6 years of being there. You know, you start on the bottom and then they throw you into it. You know, that's how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. So love it. And so, David, what was the, maybe the 30-second version, if you don't mind, of the craziest case that you ever had, without naming names? Like the craziest thing you saw being in the space of the Bronx in the criminal world?
Wow. 30 seconds. We really dealt with, that's a really hard question in 30 seconds. I'm still practicing criminal defense as we speak. And I can tell you, just in terms of sensitivities, I have a case that's on tomorrow in Manhattan, an animal cruelty case. And it is a correction officer from New York City that is on video, allegedly assaulting his dog on three different incidents on his rooftop. So I'm dealing with that, and that is It's a real hard case. It's one of the hardest cases that I've ever took on, that I agreed to actually even be retained on, just because I happen to be an animal lover. And going over that discovery and getting ready for trial and throwing my wife into the mix to see the videos as she wants dogs in our house. It's been a very contentious week in my house, but that has been one of the craziest ones that I've been dealing with ever since. It's just very rare do you get these animal cruelty cases. And when you do, it really strikes a nerve.
Well, it's great to hear, David, your empathy, your presence, your heart. I think people often have a real misperception of how the justice system works in every component, every level. So wonderful to hear your heart, and thank you for your courage and vulnerability in sharing that. And how about a fun fact? Like, what's something we might not expect from you?
In terms of judging, or in terms of what specifically?
Yeah, just a fun fact about you. Like, a fun fact might be that I'm a blind guy and I win carnival games as a blind person. That's how people can't win. That is a true fun fact.
That's a beautiful one. I'll tell you a fun fact that I'm working on now. In the last 2 years, sort of like a passion project that I'm doing, is rather than the courtroom work, which, you know, all criminal defense attorneys and prosecutors do, I'm doing a lot of work with vacating criminal convictions with certain groups of people in New York City. And it's a big deal because many of them have been in this country for 20 to 30 years. And on rather small offenses, they've been unable to go to school or get citizenship, and they're scared to drive on the block because if they get pulled over for a red light, they could get thrown into custody. So I'm doing a lot of that work, sort of vacating convictions to get people their lives back so they could visit their home countries and be full US citizens. So that's like a little bit of a pet project that I've been doing in the last couple of years. A lot of good stuff.
David, super cool, super present to your heart, and to the humanity of what goes on. You know, it's one thing when the thing is over there, but when it's your thing and it's right here, you know, that's when all the humanity comes in, and hopefully we'll continue to expand that perspective. And thank you for adding to it here today. So thanks, David.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. G-Money.
We have the 2021 President-elect of the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers here today, Sean. Joining us from the windy city of Chicago, has worked with Chicago Bulls legend Michael Jordan on all kinds of news networks. Welcome, James Quigley, to The Real Raw.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Woo! James, thank you so much for being here today. Extraordinary. Congratulations on your leadership, which is obviously present. And how about a fun fact, my friend? Like, maybe, did you beat Michael Jordan in one-on-one basketball, maybe?
I actually met Michael Jordan on the basketball court, coincidentally, in the mid-'90s when he was playing baseball. He'd play pickup at the health club where we used to play, and I had the pleasure of playing against him on a couple of occasions. And let's just say that didn't go real well for me, but it was quite a pleasure.
Did you try to take Michael Jordan off the dribble?
No, I just tried not to embarrass myself, to be honest.
And are you a strong basketball player? Like in your world, your life?
Well, yeah, that was a different time in my life. I turned 55 this October, so basketball is something that in my mind I think I could still keep doing, but is not, haven't played for probably the last, I don't know, maybe 6-7 years.
Very, very fun. Well, appreciate that enormously. And, you know, if you're going to share with people, it's interesting. We have an extraordinary woman named Jacqueline Franchetti, who's working hard in New York and has desires to support this around the country. And I'm not going to put you into an awkward position on the spot asking you your opinion about this. I'm just bringing it to light for a sec. She's looking to pass something called Kira's Law, K-I-R-A, her daughter, that was murdered in a murder-suicide by her husband going through a matrimonial matter. And we have a matrimonial division in our firm. You know, I've had the privilege of working on several matrimonial cases, you know, in the early stage of my career. So I am present to the complexity and all the dynamics. You know, when you think of the matrimonial system and you think of everything from a woman like Jacqueline who would sit in the space of, I cannot believe that this judge, over the objection of my attorney, allowed my ex-husband near my daughter, to the flip side of a parent who's like, I cannot believe this judge bought into the lies about me and doesn't let me see my child, and or anything else. Like, just what's on your heart for the state of the matrimonial bar, the family law world? You know, like, what is it that if you could wave a magic wand, you would have people in the world know about this part, this critical part of our system?
Well, I think when I hear that story, it does bring to mind certain cases I've been involved in. And you're right, Sean, you can be on either side of the coin, where I've had the parent who's being deprived the ability to see his or her child. And there really isn't an evidentiary basis. There's allegations. And I see the opposite side, where they really need protection, and judges' hands are kind of tied, saying, what's the evidence? On what can I base this request to restrict the parent's time? And so, candidly, Sean, my, in the almost 30 years I've been doing this, the thing that really tugs on my heartstrings as a divorce lawyer is these cases that involve children. They don't deserve this. And unfortunately, the court system, at least in Illinois, I can speak to, as well as some other jurisdictions I've practiced in, they're just not equipped to really handle those very complex issues. There's so many cases. The rules of evidence, as you know, Sean, are what they are, and that's how our system works. So it is devoid, I think, of the kind of resources to really help in those kind of situations where kids are imperiled. It is an ongoing problem.
Yeah, and it's an honor of having you here today. And we usually start the Real Raw with a lot of fun and ruckus fanfare, which we have a little bit, but a mission very much in my heart. And I meant what I said. I had the privilege of having 2 top 100 national jury verdicts between 2014 and 16. One of only 2 attorneys out of the 1.2 million in America, and the only one that was blind. P.S. This is the 100th anniversary year of the American Foundation for the Blind, and Helen Keller is the original face and voice and energy of it. So there's a lot circulating in our space in a beautiful way at this moment. But what sits in the space of Unblinded and this Real Raw and integrity-based influence and acceleration, or at least one of the things, is a passion I have for what we teach about integrity-based human influence. And I know you never drop in, guys, like into this depth of conversation, but just the people that are here, the listening, the attorneys, the leadership. And what's so present to me in both of those top 100 verdicts, there was criminal behavior on the other side. And in the one case, we filed an order to show cause before a state court judge in New Jersey. And in that matter, he denied our original injunctive relief application, saying we did not have a likelihood of success on the merits in a case where ultimately the trial, we had an 8-figure punitive damage award and an 8-figure compensatory damage award, and the prime defendant went to prison. And so we had a state court judge that, and again, I'm not vilifying, but I'm speaking into the issue that you just mentioned, which is how overloaded the system is. But I'm really confident. And in the second case, very similarly, we had enormous struggles in state court. We got the case to federal court, and we ended up 8 figures compensatory, 8 figures punitive in a business case that was generated by an attempt to commit Medicaid fraud that my client, 50% shareholder, outed and then lost his company for it. Long, complicated story. But having worked and put in Florida, I know we have some folks in Florida here. Scott Rothstein was the first person to report him to the FBI. He was the Ponzi schemer in Florida that built Rothstein, Rosenfeld, Adler, a 300-person firm that eventually imploded as a Ponzi scheme and wanted $8 million from my client. And my client wanted to give him the money, and $1 billion had been taken off of people. So I think we had this enormous chasm, and I'll just leave it here maybe for future conversation that we could forward, this chasm of enforcing laws on perjury, enforcing laws about candor to the tribunal. And I think very deep in my heart, obviously, is the complex journey we travel in the court system as licensed attorneys. But I've been involved in countless cases where the other side is just lying. Oh, yeah, Judge, I sent it to them. I emailed it to them. I delivered it to them. Oh, no, Judge. Yeah, my client is sick in the hospital. Like, where we literally have, in most for most judges I've ever been, a virtual free pass at lying. And I think, our court system is so challenged as it is. I think a movement towards the elimination of lying by lawyers, not zealous advocacy, not where we have a beautiful situation where somebody is representing somebody's constitutional rights, and even if they are accused of committing violence against their pet, they have a right to a defense. That's different than walking in court going, oh yeah, my client's sick in the hospital and can't show up for trial, when the client's not sick and not in the hospital. And so I offer that to the learned and brilliant minds here as potentially an important step forward that we can make as a judicial system to enforce the laws already in existence that prevent people from committing perjury and prevent attorneys from not being candid with the tribunals. So I don't know, any thoughts on any of that?
I do actually. I actually agree. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that past generations of lawyers had an inherent collegiality between lawyers, that we weren't lying to each other. We weren't trying to scam one another. We were just presenting the facts to the court and doing so in the best light possible to defend our clients. And now it's really been a take no prisoners, anything that you can think of, regardless of whether it's true or not. And I have on many occasions suggested that there should be a focus on returning integrity to the profession, because honestly, it's very frustrating for people who don't lie to the court.
If I could follow up on,
please, please.
Just to follow up on exactly what Todd was saying, an observation I've had, and again, over 30 years, you've seen the evolution. And I think for me personally, the last 2 years have been even more destructive to our practice, where there's zero accountability when you do things over a computer screen. In the old days, there was a collegiality. You went to court, you saw the men and the women that are in the trenches with you. There was a friendship in some cases that developed, and certainly a more personal accountability to people. When you saw them and you stood before a judge and you stood in an open courtroom and you made statements and representations, I think that's eroding even more with, at least here in Illinois, where they're just not letting us back in the courtrooms. And I think that is horribly destructive to our practice. It's sad to see it.
Also,
thank you for that. Thank you.
Practice.
Oh, please, go ahead. Please.
Yeah, in bankruptcy court, it's much more collegial because there's the same people over and over. And if somebody calls you out for lying, that's an issue. Whereas I go into state court and there's 40 judges. And I've watched people bounce from judge to judge, and until it becomes really apparent that their absence of candor to the tribunal, which is a fancy way to say a lion through his damn teeth, they'll get away with it. And it's, there's also a reservation from going after people because maybe it was a stupid goof, not an intentional flat out lie.
The other part of that Robert's saying is that there's a nominal number of bankruptcy judges in the Southern District, especially, and you're going to see those judges again. And if they get whipped on an idea that you're lying, you're going to come back on another case in front of them, and you are in big trouble.
Yeah, well, and that's the awesome thing. And I think even with the ethics committees, there's such a level of, to me, as we evolve as a practice, there's such a level of scrutiny, concern. And by the way, I have no marks on my record in this space, so this is not me talking about an issue that's been personal. It's just my perspective that we live in a world where people, and I've never had any of these issues, so I'm just talking about what I've heard of and seen from colleagues, where if somebody makes a mistake and doesn't file a record on their trust account, they can have an incredibly serious problem when there's been no wrongdoing. If somebody puts something and forgets a disclaimer on a website in a certain way, they could have a problem. And yet, lawyers walk into court all day, every day with impunity and lie about everything. So I think that also what we prioritize in the space of our ethics committees becomes an important piece. But I'll pause there. Thank you, by the way, for that conversation. We've never done that in, I don't know, however many hundreds of episodes into the Real Raw we are since COVID began. So thanks for that. But I felt the energy of this group, and I know we still have another person or two to introduce, but I just stepped in there with the leadership that we had here. So thanks for stepping into that conversation and for everybody else's patience. So G Money, G Money, we got some more people.
Yes, we are going to mix it up now. Coming from across the pond, Sean Callaghy. This man runs a management company supporting disability artists across the globe. Why? Because before, when he was a tour manager in the music industry, found out he was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa. Sean Callaghy. He is now helping others, steering the UK music industry in diversion and inclusion. Welcome, Ben Price, to The Real Raw.
Thank you.
Ben.
Thank you.
Ben,
hey.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
What is your fun fact, Ben?
Fun fact. I guess aside from all my work, talking about personal life, I'm a huge soccer fan, as you guys call it, and that's my team there called Sheffield United. I just realized I must be fanatical because I've got 2 mugs on my desk and they're both Sheffield United mugs. So clearly 38 years old, I'm not growing up at all. And I still had my full kit on Saturday when they played on the telly. So some growing up to do, I think.
Well, Ben, thank you for that. We share the same eye condition, which you may or may not know.
We do, yes. Yeah, I did know. Yeah.
I also have retinitis pigmentosa, and it's the 100th anniversary year for the American Foundation for the Blind, and we're doing some incredible things. We have a gala coming up on September 23rd, where we are in the process of A-list rock stars, A-list MC, just sourcing incredible people. Kirk Adams is the president of the American Foundation for the Blind, and he and I'm the co-chair of the event, and he, as my guest, won Business Mastery with Tony Robbins, and we ended up raising $2.5 million for the AFB through just incredible people. So we're on it here, my friend, in the U.S., and appreciate you and all that you're up to in the world and fighting for disability and inclusion. And anything you want to share on your heart just about your mission, your cause, and 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, my mission is quite straightforward. I want to bridge the gap between what's seen as the disability art scene and the mainstream music industry. It's very difficult for artists to get through. The statistics show it, and not just artists, but anyone working in the music industry. Here in the UK, we're talking about 1.8% of representation on disability compared to 18% nationally. So clearly there's a disparity there. And not only perhaps opportunities not seeming achievable for people with disabilities, but I do believe there's a high percentage who, like me, I worked as a tour manager, traveling across the world with RP as my kind of eyesight started to fail. And I'm sure as you'll sort of agree with, can you imagine working in dark backstage environments with RP? It was very much a struggle and something that I didn't feel I could share for quite a lot of years until really it became too bad for me to hide. And so I just want to campaign for more people to be able to work in the music industry and feel that they can disclose if they do need adjustments.
Ben, much appreciate you being here and all that you're up to in the world. And let's have some fun today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. G Money.
We have the influence sorceress, I believe, Sean Callaghy. Do you want to introduce this beautiful woman?
Yeah, I think I'll take a shot. So this woman, coming up right now, coming from the great state of Florida, started selling crafts on her front lawn as an 8-year-old tot. When I was running, hiding, couldn't even think of talking to people, she was selling stuff already. Going from low to yes, with heart-centered integrity. Then she went on to become a 7-figure earner in the space of network marketing and became, ready for this? Think of this. Think of being, in your early 20s and facing, the normal bias that exists in the world of all sorts. And what would happen if you went into the space of business brokering? Where your average person you're dealing with is a 50-year-old dude. Well, this woman not only made it there, not only became successful, but became the number one numero uno business broker in the state of Nevada in her mid-20s for 3 consecutive years, and then left that behind and went on to be, where she is now, the president, the founder, the CEO of Line Talent, sourcing talent in the space of marketing and sales, which is just about the hardest thing to source in the world, because everybody faces the fear of rejection and fear of failure at some level in the scope of their business or practice acceleration. The one, the only, Bella Verita. What's up, Bella?
Hello.
Bella, how the heck are you?
I am wonderful.
Yeah.
How are you?
You are wonderful. That is true. Co-host of The Real Raw. And what is your fun fact, Bella Verita?
Ooh, my fun fact is I discovered yesterday that I much prefer playing in like the southern Atlantic Ocean versus the northern Atlantic Ocean. It is much warmer. The waves aren't nearly as crazy. And like, you don't freeze. It doesn't feel like pins and needles when you're, walking into the ocean. So that is my fun fact, that I was in the Southern Pacific Ocean and I was not beat up by the waves like I usually am when I go into the ocean with Sean Callaghan.
Sean, we have to stand for our Jersey Shore. Come on.
Oh, to see, I
Did we lose him?
It was so crushing to his soul that we just like lost him in outer space. Because fun.
Yeah. So Bella, I'm sorry. Yes. So I hear you like playing in the kiddie pool of the South Atlantic instead of the deep end where the big people play in the Northern Atlantic. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I think your level 5 listening is definitely off today.
All right. So take us in. So G-Money, we love you.
That bell, I think, was Bella 1, Sean Callaghan 0. I'm pretty sure that's what that bell was.
Oh, au contraire, my friend. We'll come back to this later. So, yes. Yes, G-Money. We of the Northern Atlantic, you and I, Gina, we know the truth. And we'll take care of Bella and give her a hug every time she has to come into the Northern Atlantic.
Oh, I'm down for that. Love you guys.
Yeah,
have
so
fun
Gina,
exploring. Yeah.
Yeah, love you. Yeah, good.
Have fun exploring Integris influence and enjoy the multiverse of The Real Raw. Hope to see you again soon.
Bye, G-Money.
Bye.
Yeah, so Bella, you of your tropical flair in the Southern Atlantic, the nice tropical reef fish, as opposed to the bumping great white sharks of the northern. Yes.
Which, by the way, fun fact is like these little fish they were like attacking my feet yesterday. There was all these like schools of fish, and when you go to those little places that like eat the dead skin up. I think that was happening to me in the ocean yesterday because they kept like nibbling at my toes. It was very odd.
Yeah. And fun fact is Bella has a lot of dead skin on her feet, so thank God that happened. So Bella, who is going first today?
Oh my goodness. I think Mr. Todd Duffy. What do you think, Mr. Todd Duffy? You ready to rumble?
Let's see what we can do.
All right.
Yeah, Todd, this is about going from hello to yes, right? Integris influence is about this dynamic. Whether we're in a courtroom, whether we're publicly speaking, marketing, selling, managing, leading, recruiting, raising money, profit or non, Integris influence beats non-Integris influence all the time, first of all. And second of all, everything starts after yes. And that's the game we're playing here. So Todd, what would a yes be that you would be seeking? Bella will be on the other side of that you need that yes from her. So who would you like Bella to be?
I'm open, actually. Whatever Bella thinks is an appropriate role, I'm in.
Yeah. So it'd be for you though, from whoever, maybe an ideal client, maybe she's an adversary. Yeah. So
sure.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with an adversary, which I think is that would be a leading place for an absence of integrity, and not so much with a client.
Yeah,
and you know what? And Bella has an extraordinarily adversarial flair to her. So I think it'd be perfect, Bella. What do you think?
I definitely think so. So what? What's the role I'm playing?
I
You're going to be an
understand that
adversary
it's,
in bankruptcy. Yeah, go ahead,
yeah,
Todd.
and
Give her. Yeah.
so you're an adverse counsel. So if I'm debtor's counsel, you'd be a creditor's counsel. If we were litigating in bankruptcy court, you could be a defendant's counsel. If I was debtor's counsel, I'd be a plaintiff's counsel, that kind of thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So how about this? How about you want to represent Todd, a creditor, a debtor?
I'll do debtor.
Okay. So Bella, Todd's client owes your client money, and he's going to be trying to get a yes from you about something. That's
Got
the
it.
scoop.
Okay.
All right.
His client
All
knows
right.
my. Okay,
So
got it.
take us in.
Hello, this
Okay.
is Bella.
Hi, Bella. It's Todd Duffy from Duffy Amadeo. How are you today?
I'm wonderful, sir. How about yourself?
I'm good. Nice weekend, I hope.
Yes, it was a beautiful weekend. Yes.
Good. So as you know, we've got this client, Acme Incorporated, that is filed for bankruptcy, and I know that you're listed on the 20 largest creditors.
Yes.
Are you? So what we're trying to do is come up with a way that we can create a plan of reorganization, and we're hoping that your client can be on board. We've spoken to a number of the creditors already, and they're really willing to work with us so that we can actually come out with a plan of reorganization and a 100% vote in favor of the plan. So how does that sound to you?
Definitely. I mean, obviously, we're getting a lot of these calls as of late. We have a standard that we go with, but what is it that you guys are proposing?
Well, we would like to pay all unsecured creditors, of which your client is obviously one of them, but we'd like to be able to pay all of your all unsecured creditors the sum of 10% of what's actually owed. And so this way we can go forward, we can continue business with you, and there'd be revenue in the future as well as redemption of some revenue from the past.
Got it. Well, looking at our, past records, what it is that we typically do, we'd be looking more at 30%.
Okay, and why, when you say you were looking at records, what did you mean by that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, just what based on what we do, we'd be looking to get at least 30%.
That'd be fine. If I was only dealing with you, I think I probably could do that. The problem is that I have to pay 30. If I pay 30%, you have to pay 30% to the entire creditor body. And so what I'm hoping to do right now is to come up with a plan that's affordable, because if I overcommit the client, then the client's only going to come back for another Chapter 11. We don't want that. And that's going to hurt your client too, because then it's an interruption of business, right? Because our clients are still working together. So as much as it's important to have that revenue generated from prior revenue or from prior deals, I'd really like to be able to make sure and ensure the future and have continuous business coming in for your client also. So I'll tell you what, I'll talk to my client. Let's see if we can't get them to come up to 22%.
That would definitely, that would be more doable that we could go back with for sure.
That'd be fantastic. All right, great. So let me talk to the client, and I want to make sure, I want to do the numbers and make sure it's realistic. And then I'll get back in touch with you for sure. If there are any problems at all, I promise I'll get back to you and give you all the details.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure speaking with you.
It's a pleasure speaking with you as well.
Thank you.
How'd I do?
Appreciate it. You did wonderfully, Bella. Yes, you are. We have much to unpack in your lawyering.
I thought I was doing really good at that. We went from 10% to 22%. I thought I did really good at that. I think that's only the third time I've played an attorney on this show.
Yes, we'll get into all of your influence dynamics in a bit. So excellent job, Todd. Thank you very much. Robert, who would you like Bella to be, please?
Let's try something a little bit different. Let me see. Should we stay in bankruptcy or go to divorce or go to criminal law?
Go wherever you want to go. What's a yes that would matter to you?
Well, okay. How's this sound, Bella? We have a client. It's a consumer bankruptcy case as opposed to a commercial case. They want to save their house. We owe you $200,000 that we're behind. So what we'd like to do is pay you, basically recalculate everything, do the numbers again, and pay you about 31% of the client's ongoing income as the new mortgage payment. Instead of you going through the foreclosure, you're going to lose 70 grand and you're going to trash the neighborhood.
All right, so we're going to, Robert, we'll take it. Sounds great. So Robert is going to propose something, Bella. You are the bank. You represent the bank. Is that right, Robert?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Bella, you represent the bank.
and this man's coming to give you a haircut. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Hello, this
And
is
Bella
Bella
likes
from Bella
haircuts.
Burrito Bank.
Hey, Bella, this is Bob Branson. I'm representing Joe Schmo. We are looking at the tail end of your foreclosure. I've just stopped that dead with the bankruptcy. We'd like to modify his mortgage, basically recapitalize everything, stretch it out over, say, 30 or 40 years even. But that way he can afford it. It saves you from going forward. We pay you, everybody's happy, we dance, we schmooze, we all go home good. But you've got to take 31% of his gross income as the new mortgage payment. What do you think?
And I don't have the paperwork in front of me. So what is our current mortgage payment? Because we have so many mortgages right now. So who was this again? And you know, can you tell me a little bit about like the house and this particular deal, so I think see if it jogs my memory a little bit?
This is Joe Schmo. He hasn't paid you since February of 2017. Not a dime. You've been letting him live free. You're going forward with the foreclosure, but I've got a way to modify the mortgage to where you do get a constant stream of income. Your note all of a sudden is a performing real estate loan, and my guy can afford it. And hopefully you won't have to put up with me anymore. So
that does sound interesting. And so again, tell me what you're proposing as far as, you know, he hasn't paid since 2017, and so 31%. So what will we be receiving from this point forward?
Your old payment of $2,500 drops down to $1,500, but it's stretched out over a little bit longer. So as far as the feds are concerned, you've got a performing real estate mortgage, and that way you're good. You don't have to go forward with a foreclosure because you can't right now because I've got a bankruptcy shield in your face, and you've got a stream of income coming in, and that's something that realistically my guy can afford. So everybody wins. We dance, we schmooze, we all go home happy. So let me hear a big yes from you.
It almost sounds like our hands are kind of tied here, and you know, this is better than nothing. So let me take it back to the board, and we'll let you know what we decide.
You bet. That's why I sue banks. They've always got the money, and my guy doesn't.
Great job, Robert. Great job.
Awesome job. Feeling Bella, like, I don't know what would happen to the world if you started becoming an attorney. Like, there might be like insane cyclones and volcanic tectonic shifting of the planets, I think. So yeah,
it's a possibility. I play one on TV.
Yeah. So excellent job, Robert. Let's see what the judge has to say. So let's go, David. Please, let's start out. What'd you have for Todd? 30 seconds of feedback, please. 15 seconds work, 15 seconds what could be optimized. Bella Verita is the keeper of time integrity, and then a score on a scale of 1 to 10, please. 10 being like the most optimal. So David, what'd you have for Robert?
I liked, oh, you want me to do Robert first? Okay, so Robert, what I liked about Robert was that he kept Bella going with his idea. And from my knowledge of the law, I don't see that type of agreement actually happening very, very often, if at all. But I love the fact that he was fighting for his client and he came up with a favorable resolution, certainly a very favorable resolution for his client. And, you know, I liked his approach. He's very smooth on the phone, kept Bella going, and with a performing real estate mortgage as opposed to a traditional one. So,
and your score for Robert is?
I'd give him a 9.
Beautiful.
And should I move on to Todd?
Yes, let's move on to Todd, because I think we might have lost Callaghy.
Yeah, we did for a split second. I heard everything for like 5 seconds. So excellent stuff. And yeah, what'd you have for Todd, please?
With Todd, I liked Todd's start, asking his adversary about her weekend, because I deal with many adversaries, and it's very, very rare that people care what I was doing during the weekend, and they just sort of want to get into business. So it's nice to sort of open up the channels. Besides that, he was certainly open to a negotiation, trying to fight for his clients' rights as well. 10 to 22%. I think Bella did okay over there with her lawyering skills as well. But I will also give Todd a 9.
Beautiful.
Excellent. Thank you for that, David. And James, do you go by Jim or James? I just want to make
sure.
sure.
Go by James. James is fine.
James, awesome. James, thank you. So James, please, what did you have for Todd? Let's switch up the order.
Well, I'm going to agree with David. The thing that struck me right away was the sort of the disarming personal touch to the phone call. How's your weekend going? I've had those calls where people, you answer the phone and they light you up right away and you turn them off right away. I also sort of thought that if I were Todd, I might have held out for a little bit lesser percentage. And I think I would try to have Bella sort of let me know where she's coming from. So I in a short period of time, you got to do what you got to do, but I probably would have held out for a little bit lesser of a percentage before 22. I would give him an 8.5.
Nice. Excellent. Appreciate that. And what did you have for Robert?
Robert, again, would have preferred a little bit of a personal touch to start the call, but I thought that what he did well was he, in a polite and professional way, sort of let Bella understand the leverage that he had, which is with mortgage moratoriums continuing and her not really even being able to act on this. Here's an opportunity to get money in the door. And then I think when he put it in the terms of a real dollar amount, I think that was very effective, because then you can understand, hey, listen, it's $1,000 less a month, but we're getting it. Give him a 9.
And a 9. Awesome.
Very good work. Thank you, James. Excellent. Ben, please, what'd you have for Robert?
Yeah, very good. Thought he came across very professional and presented the case very well. I don't know anything about the world that you were talking about in both cases. So I don't know what's a good deal and what's not in those worlds. So it's difficult for me to say. I like the way that Robert kind of sort of made it clear that, we all agree on this. We can all kind of get on with our lives. As I say, I don't know what the world is, but I wasn't sure if it was a good deal. I did get the sense slightly that it might not have been the best deal. I don't know, but yeah, very, very good.
And your score is?
8. I'll give you an 8.
Nice.
It's good.
And Ben, what'd you have for Todd?
Yeah, I love the way, as has been said, he kind of disarmed and was very polite. It does make a difference, obviously, to go in with the correct tone for what could be a hostile conversation. If you start on hostility, then it's only ever going to go one way. I did like the way that he mentioned that I've spoke to others in the same position and they all seem to agree. I thought that was a really clever move, because obviously no one wants to be the one that's kind of not agreeing to something that everyone wants to agree on. So I thought that was a clever tactic. I like that move.
And your score for him is?
I'd go 9. I like that. It's good.
Nice, Ben. Love it. So listen, what we normally do at this point is have a little bit more fun, and somebody gets to put me on the hot seat at this juncture. So Bella Verita, who do you think should put me on the hot seat?
Ooh, today is a tough decision. Is anybody itching and burning? First person to raise their hand? Robert, how about you? Oh, you're mute.
I guess it would help if I was actually talking to you. The only thing worse than you're on mute is you're not on mute.
Would you like to set up a scenario for Mr. Callagher, or would you like to pass it to somebody else?
Honestly, are we basically doing the same thing and just letting him go with it?
Yeah. So what
you're gonna put me. I'm sorry, Bill. You're gonna put me in a spot where anything you want me to be. I've been president of the United States. I've been having to get the last ticket on a plane. Anything that you want me to be, I'll be. In the craziest scenario. So it's not just like, oh, I get to set the scenario. You get to set it for me, and I have to demonstrate. But it's got to be integrous. Like, we're not selling swampland in the middle of Manhattan. It's got to be something integrous, and I have to go from hello to yes.
And so you do PI work, right?
I do not, actually. I do a ton of speaking. I do commercial litigation. We do work helping medical providers recover money from insurance companies. We do have a PI division. It's a very small division of what we do, but I haven't been involved directly in personal injury case in a long, long time.
Okay, commercial litigation. Let's say you're trying to collect $1 million from my client. I'm trying to convince you to take a substantial haircut. How's that sound?
Ooh, it sounds great. Sounds interesting. Okay, so let's take it in. So Robert, thanks so much for the opportunity to have a conversation. And if I could ask you this, I know you've been, working this case a long time. I know you have a personal connection with your client in a huge way. But what's your mission, your outcome, your vision in the case? And I'll just share this as a pre-frame. I'm not doing this as a tactic to just ingratiate myself to you. I believe in integrous influence. I don't enter into any type of like flea market negotiation where I'm asking, for 100 and really want to take $5. It's just not my approach. I'm not saying we're going to see eye to eye. I'm not saying we're going to believe the same things, but I do like to know how you approach things, like what you're about in the case. So, please just give me your perspective on your client and just your vision of how you handle cases.
Okay, well, the bottom line is we owe you $1 million. I understand that. I'm not arguing with that. What I am saying is that there is a impossibility factor here. You're not going to get all of it. And one of the reasons they brought me in is so we can actually consider whether or not a reorganization is good. So you want to collect money. I want to know what can we do to make you happy without paying you much money is what it boils down to. Because, let's face it, we would like to continue doing business with you guys. We have generated a lot of cash for you guys. But right now, everybody's going to have to take a haircut, or we're going to have to think of bankruptcy as an option. So what I would propose is a 10% on the dollar recovery. That way we save the money we would pay the professionals in a bankruptcy. You get some money now, and we go on with it, and we stop the litigation between us, because that litigation is costing us a lot of money that we could be using to pay you.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So listen, I'm definitely not in a position to create any compromise at this moment. But what I am absolutely fully up for is a conversation where we analyze all the pros, all the cons, all the strengths, all the weaknesses of the relative positions. And I appreciate your candor. Like, that is received. The fact that you're not making up some absurd defense means a lot. There's a lot of emotion that is in this case for my clients, and I think for your clients as well. But the fact that you're starting from an integrous place of saying, hey, this is the number, it definitely will not land wonderfully on my clients, the 10%, but I get it. That there's an analysis where I'm sure you can come to a conclusion where that 10% was not a preposterous offer, coming from your perspective. I get that and I honor that. What I would propose that we do is really sit down and schedule a conversation. And if we can keep it this integrous, where it's like, hey, yeah, it's $1 million. And hey, yeah, this is what it would cost your client. Hey, yeah, well, it cost your client that, my client, because I think this is where we start from. If my client proceeds, he can effectively end your client's business, right? So my client could get nothing and could spend an extraordinary amount of money ending your client's business. Doesn't make sense for my client to do that. I don't think it makes sense for your client to get put out of business. I don't think that's what they want either. So if we could acknowledge the integrity of where we are, which is that there's a little bit of a game of chicken, right? Like, who really wants what? And I think if we could bring our clients into the room and we could all just be honest with each other, like nobody wants to be out of business, right? Nobody wants to be out of business, number one. Number two, nobody wants to be in a position where they don't get paid. And everybody wants to come up with the most fair position possible. And at some point, we may get to a place of just like, who's going to blink? But the more honest we can be about that process, I think the better we're going to do. Am I speaking a language that makes sense? It's aligned? Do you think there's anything that I'm saying that isn't true up to this moment?
Well, let me take it a step further. The civil litigators will be sending our next monthly bill on the 15th. So we do have to come up with something rather quickly. Otherwise, that cuts into what we can pay out. So there is a certain emphasis on resolving this quickly, because why make the attorneys rich and ourselves poor, especially if when it comes down to it, my client has been successful, he can get knocked down, set up a new corporation. And as long as we stay away from all the assets of the old corporation, we're back in business. So
yeah,
there
so
is
I appreciate, I certainly appreciate that. And I can assure you that my client will spend the next 5 years destroying that company, if that's what your client tries to do, and then we'll be outside the space of integrity. But I think what would make sense is that we get in a room and we look to have conversations and deal. You are obviously a very talented attorney. We've been in the space of, creating the top 100 national jury verdicts that we have. And in both of those cases, we had very unreasonable positions on the other side that said we would never get to where we did. And in the one case, one of their clients ended up going to prison as they took unreasonable positions and lied all over the place. And of course, I'm not saying at all that's what your client is doing here. But I'd love to get in that room, and I'll make my clients available if you want to make your clients available. But I think getting us all together, happy to bring in a retired judge as a mediator and what have you. But I don't know, how does that feel for you?
Absolutely, and we'll provide any necessary documentation and even open up the books and records for your guys to go through to verify where we're coming through. But this is literally a time is of the essence, because otherwise other obligations are going to kick in, and we certainly don't want to go to court without all of our counsel being there. So let's see if we can't do this
for sure.
PDQ and make it happen.
All right. Sounds good, Robert. Thank you. Out of roll, Robert, excellent job. So thank you for that. How did that feel for you?
Oh, it's a whole lot easier when it's not my client's money I'm kicking around.
No, love it. Listen, appreciate you guys. Bella Frida, you ready to jump in and start mediating commercial litigation disputes? I think you are. I think you'd be better at than all
I'm
of us
really curious.
put together.
Todd Duffy was shaking his head. I'm very curious what he was thinking for that presentation.
Yeah, Todd,
I
what do
only
you
shook my
think,
head.
Todd?
I only shook my head when Robert was saying it's so much easier when it's not my client's money. That's why I was shaking my head. I was like, absolutely.
Gotcha.
I liked the mix in both instances of the carrot and stick. And so I noticed Robert pushing back a little bit, saying, this has to get done quickly. But notwithstanding the fact that he pushed back, Sean, recognizing that he pushed back, said, well, that's fine, then we'll just have to go to court. But that's not really what I want, and brought it back to the carrot, as opposed to just continuing to slam him with a stick. And so I like the balance of it, both of you. And I thought that's an easier way. That's the way I like to negotiate too, but that's an easier way to bring people around to seeing things the way you do, rather than leaving it where Sean was, which is, I'll just spend the next 5 years destroying you, and then just leaving it at that. Sean actually followed up with the idea, but that's not really what I want to do. This is what I think is the best possible outcome for all our clients.
Yeah. Masterful.
Well, thank you. So listen, I will say this, David, James, Ben, could not appreciate you more. Robert, phenomenal job. Todd as well, jumping into the courageous position as not only participants, but Robert, thank you for setting the scenario. And what I'm going to ask, in this very unique circumstance, it's the first time ever, if Bella, you wouldn't mind taking us home and just seeing how everybody's experience was, as I have an abrupt, moment and change of plans here. And forgive me, because I've never done this in hundreds of episodes of The Real Raw, but I appreciate all of you. But if I do not pause here, I am definitely going to have a challenge making a flight. So Bella, would you be so kind as to take us to conclusion?
I definitely can do that, Mr. Callie. I got you. This is my
Thank
show
you.
anyway. I'm just letting you participate in it.
I do know that. So thank you for Bella for letting me participate. And, David, James, Ben, Robert, and Todd, thank you so much. Awesome job, and love the level of the conversation and all that you're causing in the world. So thank you.
Safe flight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Callie. Mr. Callie.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Todd Duffy,
Yes,
how
ma'am.
was your time on The Real Raw today?
It was a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. What was your one takeaway from the show today?
I'm not the only one who thinks integrity matters. That was my takeaway.
Oh,
I like the fact that I felt I felt really comfortable with everybody right away, and setting that tone was such a help, and it felt great to be among people who feel the same way.
Absolutely, absolutely. What a great observation. And what's a yes that you're seeking in the world? Like, what is it that you're going into or seeking in the want more of in the world?
In the world, generally, it's nice because my first priority is my family. I always want to spend. I either want to have more resources to provide for my family, and that includes time. And so it's not all about money for me, but it's all about, regardless, it's all about my family. So I would, I'd love to have more money to spend on them and more time to spend with them. And so that's always where my focus is.
What a beautiful goal. Thank you for sharing that with us today. And Mr. Robert Bailey Branson, how was your time today on the Real Raw?
This is great, guys. It got me out of work for the afternoon, so this is a major plus.
And what was your one takeaway from being on the show today?
Well, it's, the back and forth, the kicking in, kicking out, things like that. That's, everybody's got to open their brains up and think a little bit, because a lot of people just go through life on autopilot, and quite frankly, there's a whole lot of fun out there.
There is a whole lot of fun, especially in the Unblinded multiverse. So thank you so much for joining us today. And also thank you for your service as well. And is there any yeses in the world that you're currently seeking?
Honestly, I would like, unfortunately, what I do is consumer related. So it's one person at a time. So what I have been doing is teaching other people. And since the big firms don't do loan modifications, we got to go all around the country and do that, which travel's always a plus.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Well, good luck with that.
You bet.
And Mr. James, how was your time on the Real Raw today and your takeaway?
Interesting. It was interesting. My takeaway is that I think in real life, the Integris is a lot harder than what our role playing is. And I think it takes a real serious commitment, because I think it's really easy, especially in my world where everything is very contentious, very high emotion, to be able to get people to yes on the other side, where sometimes people bring their own emotions into the representation of individuals. It's not quite as easy. And so it kind of, for me, says I have to work harder, because it's not going to happen organically, just like some of these skits where everyone's trying to find a way to yes.
Absolutely. And I absolutely respect that and can empathize that with you. And I would say also, the team's going to put in, they may have already in the chat, the formula that Sean came up with, the integrity-based human influence. I have seen him negotiate in such integrous ways in some of the most difficult situations, and especially on the show. Like I one time he did a role play playing President Trump, still convincing President Biden to build the wall. Like that was a real scenario. And the way that he masterfully influenced President Biden, with integrity was absolutely incredible. And I can understand in certain situations where, that might be a little bit tricky, but I would definitely download that guide. And thank you for being with us today. And thank you for sharing.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you.
And David, how about
Yes.
for you? How was your time on the Real Raw today and your takeaway?
I definitely enjoyed it. It's nice to see other people do the negotiating and sit back and judge every once in a while, because generally that's not how my world goes. It was fun. I would definitely come back again. It was a good time.
Awesome. And what's a yes you're seeking in the world?
I'm seeking a little bit more of intellectual honesty and smiling. I think it goes a long way, especially in this year in COVID. And I know James touched on it a little bit. I'm in virtual court every day, Teams, Zoom, WebEx, all day long. And, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, you're in a room often in a criminal context. You're in the room with 50 other lawyers, and everybody is just waiting for their case to be called. Sometimes it would have taken 5 minutes in real time. Now it's taking 3 hours. It's frustrating. And then you're listening to other lawyers' conversations. And sometimes within 4 seconds, you're saying, wow, this guy is just full of it. You know what I mean? And it's palpable, and it's just, it sort of ruins the party for everyone that day and in the future. So I think, people being honest goes a long way, especially in our profession.
Absolutely, 100%. And David, thank you so much for that. And thank you for sharing that with us today. Appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.
And Ben, how about for you? How was your time on the Real Raw today?
Yeah, great. Flew by. Can't believe we just did an hour, but yeah, great to meet you all.
And your takeaway for the day?
I know nothing about litigation or anything like that. It's like most of that went totally over my head. But it was fun to listen to and kind of, I suppose, have to judge who was sort of having the right approach without knowing any of the facts about what you were talking about. So I found that quite fun.
Awesome. And any yeses that you are seeking in the world?
I've got a newborn, so can I go to sleep for an hour or something like that would be definitely something. But no, just what I was saying.
That does take some negotiations for sure.
Definitely.
For sure.
Just as I was saying at the start, just my world's all about diversity and inclusion, and trying to spread that into our business a little bit more, which is quite ambitious, but someone's got to be doing it.
Absolutely. Well, you are doing masterful work in the world, Ben. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing, and thank you all for being here, with us today on the one show that talks about integrity-based human influence. And I definitely invite you to download the guide, because you'll have an opportunity to speak with one of our strategists, like Adam Gugino, who took a company from 0 to 750 million. And so the integrity-based human influence works. It's how Sean built his 2 law firms. So definitely download that guide. Definitely have a conversation with one of our strategists. And if you had a good time today, you might be invited back. So thank you all for joining us. And Vince, are you there?
Hey, yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so I'm going to need some help with our closing line. Are you ready? Because we're all blind.
Oh, and just learned to see. Oh, snap, I got a line.
Bye, everyone.
I won't just serve